Oh, yes. What's up, colleagues? Welcome to Friends from Work. I am Al Jackson, joined by a black box who would be one comedian, Forrest Shaw, who's filling in for Tori today. Forrest, can you hear us? What's going on, man?
I can hear you. Doing good. How you doing?
Man, I am all right. Tell us where in the world you are headed right now. You are one of the most. I thought I was a road comic. Like you are a real one. Where are you now?
I'm headed to Sarasota, Florida. I have to be on
God's
stage in
country.
2 hours. So, yeah.
Okay, what club are you playing? What is that?
McCurdy's Comedy. They call it theater, but it's a club. McCurdy's Comedy Theater. Yeah.
Okay, how many shows do you have there?
6 shows. First show's tonight, and then a show each night with 2 on Saturday through Sunday.
Perfect. Well, if you are on the west coast of Florida, do yourself a favor and go see who I think is one of the best comics in the country. Straight up, literally been all over the world doing stand up, and you will be in Sarasota, Florida, where I did my first road gig ever with our
Oh yeah.
friend Carl Remy. That was probably the most scared I've ever been, but I did feel like I was an entertainer. I was like, I made it. I'm doing a road gig, and they gave me a hotel, which was people don't understand. Like your first hotel, it's just like it's like Mr. Show Business goes, "You made it, kid," and then there's a gleam in his eye.
Yeah, it's funny. One of my first road gigs was with Carl Remy too. I did it in the Atlanta Punchline, and I was on a plane, Spirit Airlines, shout out. And I remember being on the plane, just being like, I made it, flying to a gig.
As soon as you said I was on a plane, I thought you were about to break into the story about when I accidentally got you arrested in the Cayman Islands.
Oh yeah, no, that was a different gig, but yeah, that was later on. But
Can
you
you
didn't get me arrested, but like the consequences of your actions got me arrested.
the consequences of wait, please tell everybody what happened because I want to know like from a fairly impartial jury, colleagues. I hope that you guys are a little bit partial to me. Before tell everybody what happened in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, no, it wasn't your fault. So I was supposed to do a gig with Al in the Cayman Islands, and it was booked through a booker here in the United States, and you had to cancel last minute for some reason.
Always
And
good to
so
cancel international gigs last second.
so Malik Sannon, another very funny comic out of Miami, lives in LA now, writer on The Neighborhood, etc. Really, he's the headliner now, and we got on the plane together. They got us tickets, and I'm in the back of the plane. He's in the front, and they give you those forms to fill out right before you're landing, immigration forms. And it said, "Where are you staying?" And I had no clue where I was staying because the headliner had all that information, and I didn't even have Malik's number either, even if I could call him. This is like back in the day before like cell phones were just like as they were prevalent, but not like, yeah, I'm just gonna pick up and make a call in the the Cayman Islands. So I leave it blank because I know you're not supposed to lie in immigration forms. I'm the last person off the plane. I can't see Malik. He gets through immigration before I do. I get up to the thing and they're like, "Where are you staying?" I said, "I'm not sure." And they're like, "You're not sure?" And I said, "I
That's
do
like the
have this."
worst episode of Narcos ever.
Yeah,
We're like, they're just, I don't know. There's white stuff in my bag. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You might want to check my bag for for drugs and also have a bomb. But so they said, "Well, who's your contact?" And I showed them the number if I had the contact for the number. And this is what there was a person's reaction. "Oh yeah, we know this guy," which is
What
it wasn't
what
in a
was your
good way
first
either.
thought when immigration said that to you about the guy that's in charge of you while being in that country?
I I just panic because I don't care. Like once you're outside of your own country, like you have no power. Not only that,
Dude,
especially if you're from a country like the United States, any chance they can get to be like, "Oh, we'll show you, Mister Big Shot," like
yes.
it's yeah.
I don't think people realize that whole like my uncle's the governor, my dad is Frank Azar, the strong arm of the law. They don't give a shit. They probably have never even heard the name that's your like go-to name to drop. Like, oh, you mean my dad, the governor of Delaware? And they're like, who, what is that? And so it's terrifying.
Yeah. And so when they said they knew this guy too, it was not in a positive way. It was in like, it was in the most negative way, just in the tone of the voice. And I was like, the Cayman Islands aren't big, but at the same time, it's like, if they know who this person is, the immigration officials, I'm like, okay. And so turns out they didn't have a permit to be doing a comedy show. And they basically walked me, eventually, after a while, they took my passport, walked me to where he was standing with Malik, and said, hey, if you guys do the show tonight, we'll be there with immigration officials and you'll be put in prison or prison. And so you can't
Caymanian
run the
jail.
show. Yeah, yeah. And so we didn't do the show. Malik and I, it was during the Final Four because we watched Duke versus Butler, if you remember that finals.
I do. They almost won it with that half-court shot. I remember that.
Yeah, at the buzzer. Yeah. So that was Malik and I basically had a romantic dinner in the Cayman Islands and then returned back the next day. And didn't get paid either because it was a back and forth between the people in the Cayman Islands and the person in the United States. Oh, they'll pay you when you get back to the United States, because we were still like, Malik was more than I was because he was more savvy. He goes, we need to get paid still. This is not our fault. And I was just like, please, can I get out of this country with my passport? You know?
Yeah, we'll deal with all that in the AM. I feel it. Well, dude, that's kind of why I was hitting you up, because you are a native South Floridian, which it's hard to find you guys in the wild. You don't exist that much. And so I'm sure you've been going through some hurricanes and seen hurricanes. Like, you were down there for like Hurricane Andrew, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I was down there through a lot of hurricanes, but definitely Hurricane Andrew. A tree came through our roof in Hurricane Andrew. So I had friends whose whole houses were gone for Hurricane Andrew too, or, just completely turned into, to rubble. But yeah, that Hurricane Andrew was, and I've been driving today, so I haven't really been able to check and see what happened in Jamaica and Cuba and stuff. But it is a very similar storm, and that is very compact and very powerful and very well organized, as they say,
Right.
And so I feel really bad. Like, I can't imagine what's going on down there, because it's a very strong storm. I saw like videos of people tying their roof, like they have like these corrugated metal roofs, like somewhere in Jamaica, and they were tying them down with rope to try and hold on to them. And I'm just like, that's kind of what your mindset is. Like, what can I do to try and prevent this? But even if you've been to these storms, your mind still doesn't really have the brain power to compute how strong and how powerful those are.
I wanted you to speak on a little bit, because I think that the lead up to the storm, we as a country, we follow the storm when it's in the Atlantic or it's in the Gulf, and we look at the weather reports and we're like, that looks really bad. Then we kind of, morbidly look at the damage that the storm does. But I feel like no one talks about the aftermath of the recovery of a bad hurricane, because I don't think people really understand like the damage that wind and water do, and just like what that does to a city's infrastructure. So like, what is it like? Just like, what's a normal kind of recovery time to expect to be back to normal after a hurricane, especially a bad one?
Well, first of all, when you're on a trip, you go to like a national park or somewhere beautiful like that, and you try to take a picture, because what you're looking at is like, so it's like mountains or an ocean, and it's like, and then you take a picture and you're like, this doesn't do it justice.
Right.
Well, in the same way of that, like in a horrific way, I don't care how many videos you've seen of aftermath of a hurricane or photos. It's, unless you're there, you don't get the full scope of what has happened, because not just from the damage, but just like you said, just the emotional impact and all that kind of stuff too. Because you as soon as the storm's over, you're like, great, we made it through that. We're all alive, we're all healthy, that's fine. But then it becomes this kind of like shot, like you don't recognize the own block you live on, because you don't realize psychologically how your brain works and takes in information. And you see there's a tree here, and then there's a sign here, and then there's like this
hope we didn't lose. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You broke up for a second. Keep going.
All that stuff is gone. All the stuff that was familiar to you, like landmarks and trees and things that like make sense to your brain, that's all gone. So now it's disorienting on top of that. Like, you don't even recognize where you're at. And also, you don't have power. for most of the time, you don't have phone. I mean, this is back when we had landlines. You didn't have phones. You didn't have ways to communicate, and so you have to like not only start recovering from all that and cleaning up and assessing damage. You just don't have any of like the comforts that you're allotted that you normally think you have. Like taking a hot shower is not happening for the first at least
Absolutely.
week or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that's the other thing too. And I was down there for Hurricane Wilma, I think it was my first year of grad school down there.
yeah.
And you know, I don't think people realize that once the power goes, that affects like how because all the gas stations now, the pumps are electronic. So when the power is gone and it's using like a backup generator, like you grab the handle on your fuel pump and you see the numbers like exponentially shooting up if you got $30 worth of gas.
Yeah.
It almost they're moving so quickly you almost can't count them individually. When you are getting gas at an electronic pump that's working on very little electricity, it's going like 0.01 cent, 0.2 cent, and it's going so slowly that lines build up and people get very ornery at those things.
Yeah.
I've seen fist fights with people waiting in line because other people were trying to like hold spots. Like my brother's coming. It's like I didn't wait for 4.5 hours for you to allow 4 people to get in front of me. Like it just like you can always feel that as soon as there's an interruption in services, you feel things getting a little bit aggressive. That kind of like
Yeah.
I remember when the pandemic hit that first weekend. Remember when lockdowns were happening all over the country, and one thing I do remember from my ex-girlfriend because I called her from the news station because obviously we shared the NBC building, and I was like, "Yo, I don't know what's going on over here with this pandemic," but I was like, it wasn't out yet, but they had already locked down like half of the facility because I guess some anchors had gone down to New Orleans and got COVID, and we kind of gotten some early intel, and I told my girlfriend, I was like, go to Target right now. And it was like one of the few times she didn't push back. And she got to Target, and I remember she called me and she was like, it's weird in here. Because this is even before people started punching people over toilet paper. But just that vibe of just like, we're Americans and we love you. And oh, you're a fan of the Miami Hurricanes football team. So am I. Once the lights have been off for like 2 days, all that shit is out the door, bro. Like you can
Yeah.
feel the animal, like, do I need to shove your mom to get to that baby food or what? Like it's
But
very primal.
but I will say something on a positive note too. Well, two things. One thing first on a more of a, I wouldn't say negative, but also kind of piggyback on what you're saying is that the emotional toll afterwards is very difficult too, because it's not just like it's more about your home, not a house, but your home. Like so, if you have all this destruction and things that have happened, even though you still have your house and you can like fix up the things that are broken, clean up the yard, this and that. It's still I remember when Hurricane Irma hit in the Florida Keys, which is about a couple years before my mom passed away. It almost destroyed her whole house, and I went down there with her. She lived right near the water. There was 6 feet of sand piled up on the whole street, 6 feet, of sand. And then the
Yeah.
downstairs room that she lived in, that of the house that she lived in, there was a downstairs room. You knew the house, you had been there, and
I remember, yeah.
everything in that room was pushed up against the wall by water, by the waves and the storm surge coming in, and just jammed up into a corner. Just that kind of stuff. And I remember looking at all that stuff with my mom, and then we saw my mom's neighbor, and this is a guy. He was a pilot for United Airlines for years. He flew for the Air Force. He flew missions in Vietnam. He was this tough guy. His name was Jim, and he lived next door with him and his wife. And he's always like had this veneer of kind of like a tough guy. And he
Yeah.
worked on, and he was sitting on his chair just looking around the house, and he was crying. And that was and they fixed everything with the house and they got it all put together and stuff. But it's just a lot because it's like everything's normal one day and then the next day it's not. And
Yeah.
so it's really that. But the positive thing I'd say is, and it met Hurricane Andrew, even Irma, all stuff, is you actually become back to being what neighbors are supposed to be. and
Hmm.
you'll meet neighbors you've never met. you'll you'll connect with neighbors that you kind of don't like, but then all of a sudden you're like, hey, that guy's got a working coffee pot, and he said we can come over at 8 a.m. and
Yeah.
make a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
Like seriously, and it's like, hey, do you need anything? Because we're gonna be doing this, but if you need me to help you with this, and for about a week or two, it becomes kind of like this villagey, like, hey, we're all in this together thing, and that dissipates, unfortunately, a week or two. Once you get power back and everything, it's like, screw that guy,
Yeah.
we're done with you, you know. But there is a moment of kind of this, like, even like after like 9/11, remember, even that, it was just like the whole country kind of was like, hey, you know what, I didn't vote for Bush, but I think he's kind of trying to bring the country, and it was just kind of like this bonding moment, you know. And
Yeah.
it's sad that that's what it takes with a lot of humanity now, where we're like, hey, everything's the worst it could possibly be. Let's be kind to each other, you know.
You know
So
what's
there is
crazy
that.
about you saying that, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword, just because, you know, obviously you're looking at, but I found myself looking at old recounts of 9/11 because you hear, obviously it's horrific, but you hear these incredible stories of just like this maintenance man picked me up and carried me, you know, and I was pregnant. These crazy stories that came out of that. Tragedy isn't even the right word, but yeah, it's sad that that's what it takes to have the real humanity and the things that we're actually proud of come out of us. But yeah, I just hope that Jamaica gets the help that it needs, because it seems like a lot of these islands, it's hard for people not to view that those places as just these imaginary places that exist for their entertainment. But people live in Jamaica, people live in Puerto Rico, people live on the coast of Mexico, those places where you asked your partner to marry you, those places where you got laid for the first time, all these places that we all have these incredible memories with. I just hope people remember that when tragedy strikes, because I remember like how angry people got. Remember when like The Rock and Oprah, after the Hawaiian fires, they were like, if you guys could donate a little bit, people were like, fuck you. And so
Yeah,
I don't think that people weirdly would necessarily think that like a tornado that strikes the heartland of Kansas, they equate that to the same kind of damage as a fire that hits Hawaii, because Hawaii is considered in their minds a place for vacation only.
yeah, and it's, yeah, unfortunately, well, the Oprah thing, that was one of the conspiracies. She had a weather machine. She burned down Lahaina because she wanted to buy the property. You're like, all right, can you just please send $20? Just like that's
The
all.
answer is
But
no.
the where the hurricane is hitting, or it was when I saw last time, and the part of Jamaica and the part of Cuba it was going to go over, are are not the they're not the infrastructure there. It's not the major cities. I don't think it wasn't near Kingston and stuff like that. And so the infrastructure is even weaker there, you know.
Of course,
So
yeah.
it's gonna hit them. It's gonna hit them harder, even because, you know, if it hits a major city, there's lots of damage and stuff that's done. But then you have things that, you know, things in place, you know, emergency systems and
Right.
vehicles, like, you know, source places to get food, water, stuff like that. So it's gonna be pretty brutal. I'm imagining in the next day or so when everything comes to light, like what's happened there, because that storm was like, you know, just it brought back a lot of memories to Andrew when I was looking at it, because of the way that, you know, and this one's even more. I guess it was the most powerful when it hit the land of any storm, because there's been ones that have been more powerful, but
But they
not when
were
they've made
out in the,
landfall.
yeah.
Yeah, not when they made landfall. So it's gonna be
Uh,
brutal. So if people have the means to help, you know, you see one, because there's gonna come out places to donate to. I would encourage people to do that, as long as it's a reputable one. That's the other great thing that's happened on our planet, is like when there's some sort of tragedy or something like that, they're like, oh yeah, that was just a scam, that other one. So, but
right.
that's, there are,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah. There's like Michael Dean, maybe you could track down, there's that app, or there's a search engine for like legitimate charities. I forgot what it's called. But there's something so you can check and see, just to make sure you're giving to the right place. Forrest, while I still have you, man, I wanted to ask you, because obviously you've been very open about like you spent a chunk of your life gambling, and you are a recovering gambler. So I wanted to ask you, what did you think about when you heard specifically about the NBA gambling scandal? First, just talking about the fixed poker games. Have you ever heard of these? And like, is this like a common thing?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, cheating at gambling has been common. Yeah, I mean since gambling has started, people have been trying to cheat at gambling, whether they're trying to get over on a casino or they're trying to like just in a casual game of cards. I mean, we all know. I mean, they're movie tropes, but they're realistic too. Where like especially
Mm,
in the old west, they have the cards up the sleeve or something, or they
yeah.
that kind of thing. But so there's two things specifically you're talking about. There's the one you're talking about is with Chauncey Billups was the person that they said was like, I don't know if he wasn't necessarily the ringleader, but he was the face of this one
Right.
scam that was going on. Now I don't know if you happen to see some of the pictures or read anything about how like they had X-ray tables with X-ray kind of
Was
things,
that
and they
was
had
that real?
yes. I mean, from everything I can tell that I've read is that I've never heard of anything like that. To answer your question, and also the cards where they're like they had special glasses, but then the backs of the cards were marked with like what the cards were, so they could like tell.
Oh my
Um,
God.
that I've never, not that I know every gambling scam and stuff, but I to that level, I had especially like the special kind of tables they were using and stuff. But it doesn't surprise me because that's like a huge part of the gambling world is because gambling is all a game of chance anyways, so if you can get away with cheating and they can be like, wow, you're getting lucky tonight kind of thing, and then eventually things, someone will slip up, they get greedy, there's something happen, but
Right.
to this level I've never heard of it, but it seems like they've invested a lot of money in it, and I guess they were making a lot of money from it too.
What I wanted to ask you, because they keep saying like Chauncey Billups and the mob, Chauncey Billups
Yeah,
and the mafia, like they're Diana Ross and the Supremes. But like
yeah.
it seems like the mafia and the mob is always like lingering in the background, no names, no faces. So were you ever in a situation where you were like, I need to pay these guys or the mafia might F me up? Like for real?
um well, I, they weren't necessarily the mafia, but they were people that would get violent with me. Yes. So yeah, I was in a situation like that for sure. So I like where I was told like I had to stand and while a guy's face was about 2 inches away from me and he was yelling at me slash spitting on my face about money while there was two other guys in the background that had just pistols like with those the ones you wear with like suspenders just
Yeah.
hanging there. Two guys literally playing Madden on a PlayStation about 10 feet away. So even though that seems like they weren't paying attention and it wouldn't have been as scary, it was even scarier. Like they weren't even looking at it. They were just playing football and they would occasionally say something over the shoulder to the guy that was like, threatening me in the nicest way possible that he
What
needed his money. And so,
What
yeah.
what were your thoughts? Because there had to be a thought of like, I don't know if you want to share like how much money you owed him, but was it like, should I go let this guy hopefully just yell at me, probably hit me, beat me, or should I hit the highway and just hope to not get caught and just know if he catches me, it's bad news? What was
Again,
your thought process?
well, this is what happened. So he called me up and said, I'm coming to your house. And I said, you can't come to my house because my aunt was staying with me. And it was then when I lived.
That'll usually turn them out. They're like, well, why didn't you say so? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, exactly. It was the townhouse too that I used to have that you knew.
I remember the
That you spent
townhouse.
and also, so I have like these neighbors and stuff too. Yeah, yeah, of course. He wasn't like, okay, well, what would be convenient for you that you didn't ask them? He's like, your people get with my people. We'll pencil something in. I said, I will come to you. And then he sent me an address and I called one of my friends that like one of my ride or die friends kind of thing. And I said, look, hey, this is what's happening. If you don't hear from me in the next hour, this is where I'm at. And I don't know what that even was going to do. Like what, like,
Where to start
you know,
looking for your shoes?
yeah. Um, but I talked my way out of there enough to where, but I basically had to like sell my truck
Right.
and pay for it with that. So, and it was a nice truck. I think you remember that truck too. I think
Yeah, I
you
do.
can go through the steps of my life. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and that didn't get everything cleared, just to give you an idea how much money I owed them, but it got them off my back to where I could get money to clear everything. I was a biologist at the time. I don't know if people are aware of this. Biologists don't make a lot of money, especially the level I was at. So it wasn't like I just like, well, and I'll just work a couple weeks. I don't have the money. It wasn't like that at all. But yeah. So it was not a good situation. But yeah, I thought just going back to the Chauncey Billups and the mob stuff too. I thought it was interesting the way they reported it. I mean, obviously he's famous. You know, he's a
Right.
famous basketball player. NBA champion and coach, and so of course that's how they're gonna say it because they don't want to be like and Don Brittle or whatever his name would be from the
Yeah.
mob. But it is interesting how they get the anonymity of the whole reporting. It's like what?
Yeah,
Um,
it's like there's just like Chauncey Billups was running these, and it's like it seems like he had some help, but I think maybe his name. So I don't know. It just seems
no,
like
without,
they just get to walk.
that's how the mob works out like that, or the mafia or any organized crime is like they got involved with Chauncey Billups. So if this very thing happens, like they can say, hey, there's some organized crime unit that's involved in this. They probably don't have all the evidence that leads directly to them. So now they're just like, well, Chauncey Billups is going down. They'll try and put pressure on him, but then that violence comes in on Chauncey Billups. That part becomes that thing. Well, how much does Chauncey Billups say, or does he just take the fall? You know, it's not a good situation for him to be in because he definitely can't run. He's high profile, you know.
Yeah, he's also
So
6'7". Yeah, it's
yeah,
a thing where I know a lot of people even like myself would be like, well, how does somebody who's basically a Hall of Fame player, NBA champion, NBA coach right now, played for a long time, should have a lot of money. How did they get stitched up in something like this?
I I don't know, but it's just I'm addicted to gambling, but like people are addicted to getting money. So sometimes it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have or whatever. But so he could have money, and it could have been something like where I want more money because that's how people's brains work sometimes. But it could also be like he made a lot of decisions, and I can tell you this: maybe he has a gambling issue. I don't know because I've put myself in many situations where I have basically not just been unsafe, but like unstable, or not even being able to like know how I'm going to get to point A or point B or pay my rent or any of that stuff through gambling, And so I don't know. I can't say for sure, but it just sounds like to me, like, why would he get involved in that? Probably because he was forced to, even if it was the wrong decision to do that. Whether it was through greed or it was because he was in a situation where he owed money to these people, or
Yeah,
maybe he took out, like, he owed a lot of money from gambling, and they said, well, I tell you what we can do. We need to get some big whales on a hook here. Like, NBA players, get them in here. Athletes, XYZ. And
yeah.
that's who's coming in the door now. And now they got these, now they're able to like cheat the game on top of it. And he might not have known that part of it, but they were just like, get them in here, get the whales in here.
Yeah. Well, dude, let's move to a strange story really quickly. Forrest, I do want to ask you, did you obviously you're a biologist, you care a lot about animals. Did you hear about the escaped gorilla in Mississippi? There was a highway crash where lab primates escaped from their cages, a la the movie Outbreak. And like I feel like people just act like there aren't, and they said what they were testing on the primates were sexually transmitted infections. So they're burning and they're rabid. What did you think about the story? Have you seen this?
I have not seen that story. Not all of the biology stories come across my feed, just so you know. But I would say that, man, that's got to be, it's bad enough you've got syphilis or chlamydia and you're like a primate, but now all of a sudden you're just released into Mississippi. It's like, it's it's like that. I don't know if that, their natural habitat for starters,
What?
but also,
Yeah, just a bunch of confused monkeys that are really just trying to get back to their cages at the lab. Like, enough of this. Let's
yeah,
let's get back to some sanity here. This is
yeah.
bananas. All
Why
right,
couldn't we?
for
Why couldn't the truck have gotten overturned in Hawaii or something like that?
yeah, somewhere dope. I did want to ask you on a serious note, man. What did you think because every story that I've heard that's come out of this administration since they started, they all sound like hoaxes. Like when they were like, the government's coming after your Social Security, I was like, that's impossible. They're coming after your retirement, that's impossible. Now it's like they are going to shut off SNAP benefits starting in November. I wanted you to talk to the people about, just like from your perspective, we've both been like on the ground level of like where the regular folks are. What might people miss about like SNAP benefits being taken away from 42 million Americans?
What do you mean? What might be? I'm sorry.
My
Like
first
so.
thing was just like, there's a lot of businesses that rely on people spending their SNAP benefits there. Grocery stores come to mind, gas stations,
Yeah.
like the way that people function. And it's just like, to have a sixth of the country now going hungry. I think if history has taught us anything, it's that people don't go hungry. They're just about to do something else to get that money.
Well, there's, I mean, a couple things is, time after time, this administration makes decisions where they don't really see the true effect of it. And that, like you said, it's going to affect store owners and other people like that. But that's not even the important part here. Is why are you taking these away? Like, people use these because they can't afford to get food any other way, and they'll always like point to like, oh well, I know that there's this one person and they make plenty of money and they're on like SNAP benefits. It's like, okay, so you have an example of a person that you may or may not know, and therefore all the other thousands and thousands of people that need these benefits are going to suffer because of that, because you think you should cut it off because that,
It's always one of those stories that sounds like a lie. Do you remember when like Joe Rogan went on TV and he was just like, or on his podcast, and said, I have a friend that's a teacher, and because they're in a liberal school district, one of the kids identifies as a cat and has a litter box in the classroom. And like he said this on a podcast that gets millions of downloads. And it was like my body got just like warm, not only because it's stupid, but because it was such a lie. And every industry has lies like that. I remember like when I was a teacher, there was always every other teachers would tell me, yeah, I got a friend that teaches in another state and they have a girl her whose mom couldn't spell, and her first name is Shith and her last name is Hayed. So her name, when you look at it, was Shithayed or Shithead. And it's like that. I've heard that from like 3 different people, but it's just like something. I'm sure every industry has some dumb lie. Cops, I'm sure, but like when you hear stories like that, you're just like, this is Joe Rogan, somebody that has no connection to teaching or like real life, not even understanding. Like if you ask a real teacher that, just letting a kid go to the bathroom is such a distraction that it can derail your class. Because if you let one kid go, then another one wants to go, and they're like, you let Forrest go, how come Al got to go? It could just be a whole fucking thing. So teachers don't want to let a kid go to the bathroom that the school has installed, much less having a litter box. It's just such a dumb lie. We saw that with Katrina. Remember when they were giving out $2,000 because people were underwater, and then Fox News started running stories about local strip clubs are cleaning up with the EBT cards. And it's like other people are buying food, but you don't show those people. And I just think that's what we talk about with SNAP benefits. A lot of people are buying groceries for their kids, but that doesn't really make the news that much.
And by the way, if it was that liberal of a school that they let them put a litter box in there, they wouldn't just put it in the classroom. They give them a little privacy. They put the litter box in a designated litter box. I'm just being silly.
Yeah, of course, it's ridiculous.
But also like it's just so like, even if that's true though, even if if there is a person that is taking advantage of the system, which of course happens sometimes, that's still not the cause to dismantle the whole system. That's like, instead of fixing that problem, we're going to get rid of everything. It's just like, it's like getting a new car and then you get a scratch on it the first day and you're like, well, we better just junk this car and get a new one. Now it's like, no, just get the scratch fixed.
It's ridiculous. It's just like, if you own a major league stadium and you hear, hey, 2 kids skipped the line, and you're like, all right, well, just get no tickets, just let them flood the gates. Like, no, things are going to happen. But the idea that people are so mistrustful of other people, and especially of poor people in this country, it's so weird, man. We watch all these stories about this corporate insider trading and venture capitalist did something shady and stole $300 million from Chase Bank. And we're like, $300 million, that's a lot. But then you hear of allegedly some guy in Alabama that used his SNAP benefit card at a strip club, and you're like, shut down it's a waste. It's just like, it's very weird, like how people can only go after people punitively in terms of money that we can understand. It's
Yeah.
just like, I feel like a Wall Street banker that stole $82 million. If you heard they got 10 years in jail, you'd be like, okay. But if somebody held up a 7-Eleven with their finger in their pocket, mimicking a gun, and they got 11 years, it's like mandatory minimum. Even though they didn't have a gun, they intimated that they did. They got to do 11. So it's like $700 and 82 million is the same in people's minds, even though it couldn't be. It's not even a fraction to the penny. So I don't know. I just wonder. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just keep having this thought that, I'm wondering if all of these things are happening because people will not let the Epstein thing go. And I think it's harder to complain about the government. It's harder to organize and rally and to have a No King's Day 3 when you can't feed your family, when you've been out of work for a year and a half. And I wonder if a lot of this is done to suppress the clear anger from a large portion of the population. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's even simpler than that for at least what these guys are doing. They just the distraction, despite the consequences. I mean, maybe it's not even that deep where it's like, oh, if they don't have this, they can't do that. I think it's just like keep doing crazy shit until like everything just turns into chaos, kind of thing. Because that's it. Because I think that you can, like you said, you can say anything, and these people are gonna believe it because they want to believe something. Everybody wants to know that they know something, because when you feel like you have like this knowledge, or you think that like something that's told to you is correct, it gives you some sort of power, it gives you some sort of stability, and it makes you feel like less crazy,
Yeah.
And so I think that when they come out with these stories like SNAP benefits and good training, which by the way, I've been to a lot of strip clubs. I've never seen anyone that says we accept SNAP or EBT on the outside.
Those are the really progressive ones.
Yeah, EBT Wednesdays. Come on in. We'll take everything. But that as soon as somebody hears that, that just makes them feel. It's how like that it's like a joke I used to do, but it's like, if you hear somebody has more credit card debt than you, it makes you feel better. Like something like that effect. If somebody's worse off than you, it feels like.
Yes.
So I think I think there's like some level of that too when people hear a story and they're like, well, that person's a piece of crap because they did this, and that, and I just heard it on a podcast or just passing on, somebody said it at a Starbucks or something. So I'm going to choose to believe that because it makes me feel better about, it doesn't make me think about my own life for a while. I can just get fired up about that and just focus on that kind of thing,
Makes sense. Well, Forrest, you talked about the chaos that this administration has kind of laid in front of us, but you know what? They're already talking about 2028. Obviously, Trump has said he's angling to try to get a third term, but if he doesn't, they're starting to float the idea of a JD Vance, Marco Rubio best friends ticket. What do you think about this? Do you think this could have any legs? And what do you think, if not, what do you think the best ticket for the Republican Party would be in 2028?
I mean, honestly, even if Trump doesn't decide to run again, and they just got like a animatronic Trump, that probably their best ticket still. That's probably the loophole Trump. They're gonna go with. Yeah, that's the loophole. They're gonna figure out how to clone him, but it's gonna be, we don't have, cloning technology isn't good enough yet, so it'll just be like a really even more nonsensical version of what Trump is now, and they'll just roll him out, and they'll be like, well, he's got the hat on, so I'm voting for him, So
yeah. Or it'll be like, welcome to the RNC. Please put on your VR headset. The president is ready to speak.
yeah, like the Tupac hologram. They got that around still, right? But just
yeah. I mean, it's Trump. Do you think JD Vance has enough riz?
No, I don't know. I think not necessarily, because here's the thing about Trump that has worked for him is no matter what, he doesn't, it always seems like he's not trying hard, you know? Like
Right.
everything just
That's
comes easy. Like
interesting.
he just says, makes up a nickname. He calls somebody a name. He says this. He's just always chilling there, and he has that. It's confidence, but that comes from him not being in politics from all those years and just being this guy that was in this other world. And even with JD Vance and all these other politicians, that's what came across in all those debates when he was. Remember when the first time he won, and everyone's like, "There's no way he's gonna win because he's going up against Romney and this and that."
Yeah,
But when those
Jed Bush. Yeah.
yeah, and when they would go to the debates, he was just like, it was kind of like, when you go and you're trying to do something and you just don't care, so then you get the job or you get whatever, like something comes, like the less you
Right.
care, the better.
Like Office Space when he
Yeah,
stopped caring. Yeah.
yeah. And so Trump has and even JD Vance, I've seen it before. Like he's still too like, oh, okay, I'm trying to pretend like I'm cool, but I'm not cool. Like all the politicians have that, by the way. Not just this isn't just a Republican thing, but that's one of Trump's strengths is he's just like kind of winging it, and he is winging it. He doesn't even read. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's like, and that's like what appeals to those people is like he's just like that's where people think he's one of us, not because he's a billionaire and this and that and he has gold fixtures everywhere. I think that's a huge strength of his, and I just think I'm not saying that JD Vance couldn't get elected, but he just definitely doesn't have that like riz, as you said, or that no politician does, and that's unfortunately
Yeah.
that's why he's been able to be elected twice. You know?
Right. I mean, Obama had it, and you remember like when Hillary Clinton like went to that black church and she had like the Tabasco sauce in her purse,
Oh my
and
God,
everybody was like,
yeah,
"Oh," it's just like all politicians just seem like they hired a consulting firm, and the firm is like pointing to a dry whiteboard with black writing on there, like, "Okay, right, what does it say here? I am a Yankees fan. I
yeah.
like beer and the sun with my favorite golden retriever." Okay, say it back. Like they just don't seem like real people. And I think you're right that Trump does seem like one of them and that he clearly doesn't know either. And
Yeah.
so they'd rather that than pretend to know about being a fiscal conservative and what that actually means.
Yeah, he's completely unprepared at all times for everything, and he's the president of the United States, and people love it. Like,
I mean, it's like a movie that you can't. It's like if Chris Farley and Beverly Hills Ninja like went to like the UFC or something. Like, how did you do this? How did you make it?
yeah,
What
yeah,
about the Democrats? What do you think? I didn't even prep you on this, but I'm curious. What do you think would be the best Democratic ticket?
I mean, what's his name is starting like Newsom is probably the best because I mean, if we're just talking about right now, I mean, I don't think it should be a divisive thing. I think that's a huge problem, but the divisiveness is what is going to get somebody to win, and nobody divides. I mean, like like people know who that is across the country already. You know what I'm saying? Like Gavin Newsom is known already. It's the name recognition, but not only that. I
Yeah,
don't know if you've seen what he's doing with Twitter and stuff, like where he does like the imitation of Trump, where he cap
trolling.
locks
Yeah,
everything. I don't know if he's necessarily doing it, but somebody's doing it. And then he just calls people like names, and it's like a parody of what he's doing. Which the funny part is like people are like, I can't believe he's doing that. Like, like people that are like against him or whatever. And it's like, it just seems like he's kind of it. And also remember when they met after the fires and Trump was all like, well, kind of like new scum and this, that, whatever. And then on the tarmac, he went and met him anyways. And it kind of like, there was a little bit of deflation there on Trump's part, which you never see with Trump.
right.
So I feel like he's got the skill set. He's a very good speaker. He's very knowledgeable. He's basically run a country, which is California. I mean, no one else has that experience.
Right.
But he's got that national name recognition value. If you go to New Hampshire and you're like, do you know who Gavin Newsom is? People are like, yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so let's plug in him as the top of the ticket. Now, comics, we can honestly say we've been to all four corners. We go to the cities that people that go, this is a flyover country. We go perform in those cities. We know this country. So knowing what you know, what do you think would give Newsom the best chance as a running mate? A black woman of color who's previously run, obviously Kamala. You have Mayor Pete, who is openly gay, proud, married to a man, blah, blah, blah. And you have Josh Shapiro, who is a very popular governor and is Jewish. And which one of those running mates do you think that the country would find most palatable?
Well, yeah, you're already off because you named all these people that none of those would be good. Like, if you once you get the top of the ticket, the vice president part should just. This is where you really kind of get creative, I think. And I think Steve O would be a really good vice presidential candidate because no matter what, like in this that people like Jackass. Like I went in to the first Jackass movie not thinking that I would like this, and I refused that I wasn't going to laugh at this, that this is lowbrow humor, and I ended up laughing the whole time, and it was hilarious. And I just think, and I'm half kidding, but half serious, like in that part of the ticket, if you're trying to make it stronger that way, because Pete Buttigieg is such a great speaker and such, that's, no one cares about that. There's like, have somebody fun on there, you know?
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
but
well,
no,
which
but
one
I'm
do you
kidding.
think, which one do you
I'm
think the country
kidding,
could,
obviously.
yeah.
I'm kidding, obviously, but I would hope it'd be Pete Buttigieg just because I think, man, for some reason the all the last vice presidential candidates for Democrats, they've gotten like, I feel like they've not done well in the debates just alone. Like it always seems like
Right.
they're, and man, he would crush in that because he's always, you know how like comedians come out, like I'm not comedians, but there are comments about heckler owned or destroyed, which are what some of my least
Right.
favorite videos. Like that's all he could make a whole compilation of that. Pete Buttigieg of like CN, Fox News anchor owned by Pete Buttigieg. He's so good at, and not even in a condescending way. He just does it for
Right.
like, well, here's the facts, and he's like a treasure trove of wealth of information, stuff like that.
And to your point, man, you said this earlier that makes a lot of sense when you talk about Pete Buttigieg. He does not seem like he hired a consulting firm when he talks to people in blood red Trump districts. He goes in there, he's the same person. I think the thing that turned people off about Hillary when she did go to different spaces is when she went to that black church, she was like, all right now. Yeah, y'all. Hey, put your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care. And everybody's like, black people are like, you don't have to do that. And I'm assuming every group of people is very keen on when people are trying to, placate to them and just be like, I'm one of y'all. And it's like, you're not, and you don't have to be. And I think Pete Buttigieg goes on those town halls and goes on Fox News and just like dismantles them with facts and how calm he is. It's very disarming. And I wonder, I think, the country has, I don't think Kamala would move the needle really either way. She didn't have a lot of dirt on her, and she was really popular for a while. And I wonder if Shapiro, if there's enough out there with the general public for him to do anything. But I think Pete would kill it in the vice presidential debates, and maybe that's one of those things that would, tip the scale. Who knows?
And also, he served in the military. That's like a huge thing for that what you're talking about, like flyover states, this, that, whatever. He has a lot of. That's where his political roots are grounded, and then he has military experience too. So, he's really. I mean, the only thing people can say that like don't like him is like, well, he's gay, which is like such a bad argument.
That's all you got.
Really airtight. Other than that, it's like airtight.
In a weird way, that's a way to say that this person's really good at what they do, because all I can do is say something that they've already told us. So my opponent Forrest is from South Florida, so go ahead. Yeah, that's all you got. So Forrest, I did want to ask you this before we get to our moving on segment. You have talked a lot in your set about your battles with your weight. Aren't we all constantly in battle with our waistline? I don't know if you saw that obesity has been shown to drop because of the Ozempic boom. America's obesity rate is finally falling with the GLP-1 drugs skyrocketing. Do you think this is like progress, or do you think, great, we have something else we can be addicted to now?
Well, I don't know if GLP-1s are addictive, but I mean, you're talking about mentally, like being
not even mentally, just like if you get off them, you gain that weight back, dog.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I mean you. So I still think it's a positive thing overall. I still think I know it's like better living through chemistry kind of thing, but I still think that like what like if what the alternative is like you're way overweight, you're obese, you have diabetes, things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because it can help regulate your blood sugar, stuff like that. So I think that which I'm not surprised by that stats. Remember, like when Uber like started up, and they were like, "Oh, the drunk driving stats all went way down because
Yeah.
people they gave themselves." I don't know. I wonder how that is now. Because remember, Uber kind of went back up in price, and then
Yeah.
and Uber is not a great thing overall either, as far as like when you look at the how they
But
treat
in
their
terms of
employees and
like
this and that. But
drunk
that
driving,
was a hit by yeah.
this is a while ago. This is obviously back when I used to party and drink, but I remember Hannibal and I had done a show in Vancouver, and we went to a club after, and we were outside waiting on an Uber, and it was just a sea of Ubers and a sea of people, and he just goes, "Think about it. All these Ubers used to be drunk drivers." And it's
Yeah.
just like, dang, and that was just one club in a city letting out. There had to, I
Yeah.
always think about like how many people, because I think about like where I'm from, leaving a Cleveland Browns Pittsburgh Steelers game in 1987. How many drunk drivers were just released into the city?
Yeah.
Thousand. Now, granted, cars were made out of steel back then, and you couldn't really hurt yourself that much. But yeah, it's just you just think about like the change in just like even if it knocked the number of drunk drivers down by 20%, that's still a lot. But I just think, yeah, obviously you don't want to be beholden to GLP-1s for the rest of your life, but whatever, dog. Whatever gets your weight down now, we'll deal with addiction or whatever later. But
I will
it'll be
say
better
this
than
too. I
having
think
a heart attack.
yeah, and I think that look, we're kind of doing the reverse of what we did like with some of the other topics where sure there's going to be people that lose weight, get off the GLP-1s, and then they gain the weight back, but I think there will be other people that will be able to at least somewhat maintain their weight, because I think part of the problem, and I can tell you this from being way overweight myself, and I've currently been losing a lot of weight and getting in shape and stuff, and is
Shout out.
that beginning part is the hardest. That beginning part where, because if you don't see, you start eating salads and working out and whatever, and then you're like a week later, like, I haven't lost any weight. You're just like, So sometimes what people need is just a little boost to get there. And so I don't know, we don't even have that data to see it yet, but I'd be interested eventually to see what kind of people like kind of stayed, in the healthier range after that, and maybe not like as much weight as they lost additionally, but at least they were like in a more maintainable place where they weren't at risk of getting diabetes or, blood pressure issues or heart attack, any of that stuff, because yeah, sometimes that's like you just need that kind of push to get there. So I still think overall it's a positive thing, because I do believe that there will be people that maintain it.
All right, let's get to our sponsor. That's right, y'all. Shout out to Spider, moving and storage. They've taken care of me, Forrest, multiple times. Shout out to Vlad and the boys. Michael Dean, can you throw that phone number up there so we can let people know who to reach out to if you do need to move or put something in storage? Call the boys at Spider at 720-545-3187. 720-545-3187, and tell them the friends from work sent you. Now, Forrest, on this segment of moving on, you just you talk about a little thing that you just decided you're not going to do anymore, and I don't know if this will make sense, but I was on a flight coming back from, I did the 10,000 Laughs Festival this weekend in Minneapolis, and coming back, the plane that I was on, I went to go do the United Wi-Fi, and they have quietly and discreetly moved to Starlink, which is Elon Musk's company. Did you know that?
I knew that it was his company. I didn't know that all the planes moved to Starlink.
The one I was on, it seemed like a pretty regular ass United plane. This wasn't like an international.
How did you know? It said by Starlink or something on
Yeah,
there?
yes. Because I've logged on the Wi-Fi more than I've called loved ones. I know like the process, and then it just like it went to a different screen and it just said, "Welcome to United Sky Wi-Fi, sponsored by Starlink or like through Starlink." And I was like, I don't want to support Elon Musk, that asshole, whatever. Coarse language out. Forrest, I logged onto this Wi-Fi and it was fucking amazing. I can't. I can't. I wanted I wanted to hate on this. You could have downloaded a full season of Lost with how fast the Wi-Fi was on there. And I just like, you know what? I'm like, I wanted to move on from just knowing too much. I'm sure I touch a million products a day where somebody, you just go to reach for Lysol. Hey, the owner of that doesn't like black people. All right, you go to flick a switch. The guy that invented the light switch is a Nazi. Like, I'm sure everything we touch is horrible. But like, I just wish I didn't know so much, because if I didn't know so much about Elon Musk, I would be singing the praises, because the Starlink that I was on, bro, I was downloading full videos in the air instantly. It was like, I can't even be mad. It was amazing.
Chick-fil-A is really good. I mean, it's you got to separate the art from the artist now. That's what I say.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's I just think maybe, do you think that's just good news in general, or good advice in general? It's just like, don't ask too much, because it's like if you really like a band and you're like, oh, I want to hear an interview with the lead singer, and they're like, so women voting, why? And you're just like, damn it. One of my, I'm not going to say his name because I just heard somebody speaking about it, but I did not hear him directly disavow. But one of my favorite rappers of all time, I guess, disowned his son for being gay. And that was I know. And I was like, dude, this is a guy that like I can trace my journey through rap to them. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
Vanilla
Like,
Ice.
what? Yeah, it was Vanilla Ice. I'm surprised he didn't get. Do you think Vanilla Ice was like MAGA's first call before Kid Rock?
Why is he MAGA? I didn't know that he was. Or is it just because he looks
Kid
similar
Rock?
to Kid Rock? Yeah.
No.
Vanilla
I don't
Ice.
think
I know
Vanilla
Kid
Ice
Rock
is, but
yeah.
I'm sure he's much cooler than Kid Rock, and he's like just more culturally relevant. And but it just seems like Vanilla Ice, you can't tell me if they reached out to like Dean Cain that somebody didn't go, hey, Vanilla Ice, what you thinking? Because he would have opened up, he could have changed the words to Ice Ice Baby. First of all, Ice Ice, the Gestapo that's on the ground now. Like, come on.
Yeah.
If he had given them the name, the NIL.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't even think about it. He's probably at home wondering whether he should do that or not. But he's been made the offer. He's like, I don't know. The whole going back to what you're talking about, like, yeah, I think it's tough to live like, as far as like products, things that you purchase, like, and what you're talking about, like music, art, stuff that you like. I think it's very difficult to live your life, and first of all, it's difficult to know all that. Like you're certainly not going to know everything. But then once you find out information, it's like, okay, like Elon Musk didn't create Starlink, some other guy did. So that, and then all these other people that are like, I saw the Starlink factory when I was in where was I? I was in Texas. And it's massive, and there's all these employees and stuff and things in there. And so you're like, you kind of think about that part too, like what you were talking about before, where it affects all those people too. It's not just this one person, that like this trickle down effect of that. So I'm not saying that justifies some of the things that he said or done or the idiocy that he is, but it's also like, it's not always that simple too,
Right.
But if you're talking about you can start streaming videos on a plane, I mean, hey,
Dude, it was faster than my Wi-Fi at my house for sure. I did want to ask you this because Kayabu 214 says, by the way, They saw Tori and I's commercial, our legal helpline commercial. Forrest, where were you the last time that you saw that commercial?
I don't remember. I remember somebody called me to tell me about it like recently, and they were here in Florida, and they called to ask me. They're like, "Is Al on a commercial for a personal injury?" And I said, "Yes." I get a lot of calls about you, your entire career in entertainment. You've like shown up in places where people didn't expect you to, like when you used to do that show. I don't even remember the name of it. Super awesome fun times or whatever
Awesome
it was.
Adventures. Get it right, buddy.
Awesome Adventures. My friend would go, because that was like a kid show, right? My friends, all
Yes.
my friends with kids would be like, I'm pretty sure I just saw Al swimming in an aquarium. It's like, yeah, you did.
I remember talking to you. I was in Jamaica at the time, ironically, because that's what we were talking about. I was talking on a landline phone in my hotel. You and I were just talking shit. And I was complaining about something going on with the show. And you just cut me off and you go, Al, shut up. You're on a television show that's designed to show people what to do on vacation. I don't want to hear it. And I looked out of my French doors onto the beach and I was like, he's got a point. Like, what are you bitching about? It was such a random show. I wonder, and I was telling my co-host Tori this, and I'm sure it's kind of gone now. We were talking about just like crazy gigs, you being in the Cayman Islands. I think things are more efficient because of automation and, people use Google AI and crazy club owners and crazy shows. I just think that they're going to cease to exist. And yes, things will be more efficient and you can let people know where you're going to be. And on paper, it's much better. But I think I missed the crazy a little bit. Just like the producer on my Awesome Adventure shows, one take, bro. I don't care what happened. I don't care if my dentures fell out of my mouth. I'd be like, should we redo that? No, we got it. But I'm like, but I was facing the wrong way. It's cool. Like, like you can just do that. And I miss, like, I'm sure you've dealt with a ton of like crazy bookers and just like and owners of the remember when I did those shows for Boost Mobile? And it was just like basically I got paid to like tell people to use those burner phones that they sell at bodegas. And like one of the women missed a couple weeks because she got a concussion because she fell off some guy's shoulders at work drinking shots. It's just like I missed the crazy.
I know the woman well. I remember when I went to the Delano to see you guys I met her. You don't remember that?
I do. The little Asian woman, yeah. She was cute.
Yeah. Remember? Well, anyways, I won't even bring up what happened. I also like how you said basically they were burner phones. They were burner phones. If you literally could have been in an episode of The Wire, like with what you're.
It was to sell drugs with, and we just couldn't mention that. And for the money they were paying, I was like, not a word's coming out of my mouth. But Forrest, dude, I appreciate you filling in last second, man. You are the effing homie. Tell everybody where they can see you one more time tonight if they're in Southwest Florida, Sarasota.
McCurdy's Comedy Club. I'll be there all week through Sunday. It's in Sarasota, Florida. McCurdy's Comedy Club. Come on out.
All right. Julia says, Forrest, we've enjoyed your stories and your opinions. I do not feel the same way, Julia, but you know what? As long as he's got fans. No, Forrest is a longtime friend of mine, so I love talking with you, man. We will have you back on soon. Kill it tonight on stage. If you're in Southwest Florida, go see my boy Forrest Shaw. Check him out at Forrest Shaw on the Instagrams. This has been Daytime Talk After Dark. We will see you guys tomorrow right here. Appreciate y'all, colleagues. Thanks for riding with us.